Hi, Dyslexic Genius here. What I'm going to talk about is the Victor Portable 255 and about putting the motor back together. But we have to realize one thing. We're going to put this together. It's going to be underneath all this sheet metal. So you're going to have to take out a gazillion screws to get in there to oil it. So now what we have to think about is longevity of the restoration and the motor, so they'll run a longer time before we have to pull everything apart and re-oil it, which most people forget about. What we're going to first talk about is the governor. The governor has this end bearing here is pressed in and set at the factory with no set screw. The other end, the flywheel end, is put in with a screw-in bearing that we tighten the nut in. So how do we adjust all this? You back the nut off, and then you screw this in.
Okay, so you back that?
I back this nut off to the end of this screw. Then what you're going to do is screw the bearing
Show
in.
me. Show me. Back it off. Oh, unscrew it. Okay, so you unscrew it.
And we're going to back this off. Now we have too much play. So now we're going to come in. We'll bottom it out so the governor doesn't want to run. We have tension on the governor. We'll back this off a little more. So then you'll take your finger on the speed adjustment here, which gets the leather speed control there off the flywheel. And it's running very smoothly. And then we will come in a little. There. You see how it just runs and runs and runs?
Mm-hmm.
And we have very little, it goes the same direction. Like that. Now, here's the hard part. If we tighten this nut down, it's going to change the adjustment that we've just made with the screw-in governor bearing. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your screwdriver in there, and you're going to hold it right in place. And you're going to crank that down with your hand. Now what you're going to do is you're going to twist the screwdriver to the left a little, and then you're going to come in here with a wrench. So you're pushing with the wrench to tighten the nut and against it. There we go. Now we'll just test it again. Running perfectly. And this is tight. That nut's tight. And that's good. This nut should be a 7/16. Now what happens is we have a drive gear which runs off the governor drive gear shaft like this. This gear does this. So what we have to understand is, because it's underneath the motor, and we've got to take the gazillions of screws out to get to it, and for longevity, how do we oil the shaft that goes through here? What we're going to use is a little bit of STP. I'm going to show you here in just a minute. So you're going to pull the shaft out and put a little STP on there. And this is going to come in. And you hold it here because it's going to tighten up with a nut. You go, spins freely. Now, if my sweet angel can focus in, just a second. The shaft comes down here, and then you see we have a little bit bigger in the shaft. So this screw comes in, tightens down, but it locks down on this right here. So there is just a little bit of play in the gear. So what we want to do is put a little STP in here. And this will fit in like that. That'll go down. This nut will go on. And this nut has a flat side and a regular side. You see this? That's the outside of it. This is the flat side of it. That has to come onto here. We'll tighten that down later. We'll come in here. Now, the shaft runs next to the gear train here, and that's why we put the STP in here. And then there is a little bit of up and down play. You see this? So that you see the STP squirt out here, right? But it's also running down in right in here on the casting. So we have a little bit of thicker oil for longevity. Now we're going to take this off. I'm just showing you this. Now what we're going to do, we do everything in reverse. We're going to put the governor in, then we're going to put the spindle shaft in, then we're going to put this gear I just talked about in. But to put the spindle shaft in, we have a funny looking spindle shaft, and I've polished this out. I've talked about this. But you want to clean out that little indention right here because there'll be dirt and crud and extra oil and stuff. And then you want to oil the tip of this so that the set screw comes in here like that. So what you do is you use this screwdriver, the one that I've talked about before, that this gets bigger as you push it forward. So you pull this back, set it into the slot, locks down. Now what we have to do is this is the bottom where the spindle shaft goes into. This goes in here like that. See this? There's a 5/32 inch ball bearing in here. So how are we going to oil the end of the spindle shaft down here? What we're going to do, we're just going to put some STP in here. This is all for longevity. Most people take portables and they're just going to play them and play them and play them. Then we're going to get out the 5/32 inch bolt. Now we're going to get the governor drive gear that runs off the spindle shaft. And you can see here this darkness in the brass. This is because somebody worked on this and used wheel bearing grease, which is terrible to get off. And then you can see the wear line. You can see this black line here. That's the wear line from this gear. We're going to use the graphite and green grease when I oil it later down the road in the video. So what you're going to do, you're going to put this in, and this is going, ball bearing goes there. This goes in this way. Now we're going to pop the ball bearing in. There we go. Slide the shaft forward. Now, what you do, this is hard to see on camera, but what you do is you turn the spindle shaft, and there, my sweet angel can focus right in here into the hole. You'll see there's metal, and now it gets black. That means the hole in the spindle shaft is aligned. You'll oil the end of this, come in here, screw this in. lock it down tight. And you'll feel the screw when you tighten it up. Now what you'll do, you'll put a little bit of sewing machine on the spindle shaft.
Sewing machine oil?
Sewing machine oil right there on the spindle shaft. And then you will see this all spins together, just like that. And then we will put a little Vaseline on this on the next assembly. So then what you do is you come in, pop that up, bring this gear in. That slides in like that. You'll tighten this up and put a wrench or a crescent wrench on it so it's tight. And now you can see we spin. Now all that's left is to do is assemble the spring barrel. We will STP the shaft through here, just like we did the other ones. And then we will grease this gear, because this is steel on the brass. I've talked about that. We'll use the green grease and the graphite lube on this gear. And I'll show you in the next video on the motor running and the lubing of that. And that's my tip for the day.